being those people think he has made mistakes.
Listen, I'm going to tell you this. You know, people tried to talk about the mental acuity of Joe Biden. And as someone who was able to interact with him, I never questioned his mental acuity. But come on now. Come on.
I want to be clear that, like, law enforcement isn't to prevent crime. Law enforcement solves crime, okay? That is what they're supposed to do. They are supposed to solve crimes, not necessarily prevent them from happening, per se.
You can wave all the flags you want to, but I am telling you right now that the most unpatriotic people that we have in this country are MAGA and this president.
Because the Supreme Court has paved the way for half the stuff that we see that's going on. Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of shit. Okay, we know that. Yes, yes. He is. He is. He is.
My apologies for the profanity, family. So now I wanted to introduce the conversation because we got to talk about Jasmine Crockett, but not necessarily Jasmine Crockett directly, but the comments that Stephen A. Smith has made about Jasmine Crockett and her behavior and how she basically conducts herself, right? And I want to go ahead and say it before we get to Stephen A. Smith take on Jasmine Crockett and her job and what and how she's behaving, and let alone the success and how successful she's been on operating on behalf of the American people and how he is seeing things. I am going to say what everybody's scared to say. Stephen A. Smith didn't say anything wrong. He called out Jasmine Crockett for being more concerned with going viral and being a content creator, let alone influencer, than actually doing her job, okay? And now the liberal black girl mafia is having a full-blown meltdown like he snatched their edges and blamed it on Trump. Basically, in the next clip I want to show you guys to have a conversation after we listen to Stephen A. Smith comments is now we have black women specifically that basically defends Jasmine Crockett behavior and defends how she curses and spreads profanity and acts more in a ghettofied behavior with the long lashes, longer than a toenail. They're basically trying to say that black men are the opponents of black women. It's very divisive. I can't stand divisive rhetoric, but they're trying to say that black men are against conservative black women like Jasmine Crockett, and they're the most they are the opponents before anybody, right? That doesn't want the best for a black woman. That's what's being said. That's the narrative of what's being said in the next clip I'll show in a second. But this is what happens when Stephen A. Smith, a black man, decides to think for himself, especially with a big platform. And the second you step outside the liberal bubble, they label you a sellout or a misogynist or whatever new buzzword they cooked up on Twitter this week. All Stephen A. Smith did was tell the truth that this woman isn't legislating. She's auditioning for popularity. Now, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. If you're in Congress, your job is to legislate, period. But Jasmine out here acting like she's on Love and Hip Hop or some type of dramatic TV network and not on Capitol Hill, always yelling about Trump and screaming into microphones and doing the whole angry black woman routine for clicks and retweets and saying things, endorsing and promoting slave labor, which is wrong in itself, of saying who's going to pick the cotton. And here's the kicker. She ain't passing no bills. She's not solving no problems. And she sure ain't helping the folks that voted her in. But as long as she's dunking on Trump and calling them names on CNN, the liberal mob cheers like she just cured cancer. And this is what representation looks like. Nah, you can miss me with that one. But check out Stephen A. Smith comments, family.
When I point to a Jasmine Crockett, it's because here's what I know. All I ever hear her doing is going off about Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, can I tell you what my belief is? I have no desire to be a politician. Let me reiterate that. And I appreciate House Leader, Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries speaking to me in the way that he did by saying that I speak with the frustration of the American people, because you damn right I do. Let me tell you what gets me annoyed. And I hope Jasmine Crockett is listening to this. By the way, she's welcome on the show. When you go on national television and you calling the president of the United States out of his name, and you being all disrespectful, as a representative in this country, do you believe the citizens of Texas sent you there to do that? They don't like him either. I'm talking about those who voted for her in all likelihood. But because he is who he is and he is in that position, they expect you to go to Capitol Hill and figure out a way to maneuver yourself through that terrain to work in a fashion that's going to facilitate getting things done on behalf of your constituents. That's your job. That's your job. Excuse my language on Sirius XM, but it ain't your job to say he ain't shit. He ain't worth a damn. That's not your job. Anybody can do that. He's a deal maker. And if you figure out a way to make him look good in any way, quid pro quo is something he lives by. He'll reciprocate. If you know that, why you can't figure it out? Is that hard?
You got a point. Trump is a businessman first. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. Now you may not as win or be the forefront of being the most successful or win as much as Donald Trump, but at the end of the day, Donald Trump looks at it like we all win is better than we all losing, or one losing and one winning, but at least we all still winning. And that's the truth when it comes to Donald Trump. So Stephen A. Smith points it out politely, by the way, and suddenly it's a crisis because now you have on this podcast, Tiffany Cross jumps out the bushes with the whole little D energy attack like we're back in middle school throwing ad hominem attacks, and that's supposed to be a clapback. That's your political response? The man said maybe you should focus more on results than viral rants, and you counter with genital jokes? This is why nobody takes y'all seriously. If a man even breathe wrong about a woman's body on national television, he'll be canceled so fast his Wi-Fi could be cut off. But let a woman insult a man's manhood, that's just empowerment. The hypocrisy is wild to me. But now I want you guys to check out in regards of her saying basically the black man is against the black woman rhetoric.
And so I've said what I've had to say about Stephen A. Smith in my book. Anywhere I can. I don't have a lot of use for him in the political dialogue. I think that there are individuals who he matriculated with at Winston-Salem State University that are extremely disappointed about the man he's become.
It's so disheartening to me. It's frustrating, one, because anytime we speak on this, it's like man haters and all this. But I feel such confidence in black men. I've never bought into the idea that all these black men are voting for Trump. Like, they vote overwhelmingly Democrat. We're pretty much in line with each other. What you all are saying is no, they are, and the data shows that there have been inroads among black men. I want to ask why, because it is frustrating to me, and it feels heartbreaking, to be honest, because we are impacted by this system as well. It's not a matter of who's impacted worse. We're impacted differently. We sit at the intersection of being black and being women. And so when men are frustrated with this system, it feels like they fight us. And I would put Stephen A. Smith in that category too. I'm mad at y'all for having joy. I'm mad at y'all for having success. I'm mad at y'all for surpassing us on college campuses. And so it's a small sect of men that are so angry and hurt that they're willing to align with the people who oppress us. What am I getting wrong? Because if you listen to Stephen A. Smith and you find anything other than some absolute, pure, self-hating, little dick energy nonsense.
No, that's wrong. You see what I'm saying? The personal ad hominem attacks. Because all Stephen A. Smith said was, look, why don't you just focus on doing your job or doing your job better? What is wrong with that? It's like Stephen A. struck a nerve in Tiffany Cross behind or something. He didn't lie. He didn't disrespect her as a person. He just said the quiet part out loud. Your approach ain't working. And for that, for saying, hey, maybe there's a better strategy to move things forward, they painted him a sellout, a traitor, a misogynist. They threw every label at him except accurate. But here's the truth they don't want to admit. They're mad because he's a black guy who broke the script. Is that's what it is? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? This is just my analysis of things. See, you're not allowed to disagree with a black liberal woman if you're a black man in America. You can challenge anything else. You can critique Republicans, no problem, but challenge the tactics of a liberal black woman in power. Then it becomes that we're trying to stunt their growth or stunt a black woman for being successful. Come on, and now you're insecure, you're jealous, you got little D energy, as she just said. Tiffany Cross really went on air and said that and called Stephen A half-witted idiot with little D energy because she couldn't handle what he said. Mind you, this is the same crowd that claims to be about women's empowerment, mental health, body positivity, all of that. Will let a black man disagree and suddenly open up its open season for insults. And let me just ask the obvious. If Stephen A had clapped back with something like Tiffany got a big head or a fat head, would he still have a job or would the entire media be outside ESPN with pitchforks? But you see the double standard here? The liberal feminist movement gives cover to anything as long as you're on their team. But you can be loud, wrong, disrespectful, emotionally unstable. Doesn't matter. You're protected. But once a man, and in this case, because she's making it a black thing, I don't know why. I don't care about color. But especially a black man speaks with rational critique is war. And that's why more and more black men are saying, nah, I'm done with this. I've come across a lot of black men getting the sentiment of black men saying, look, black women, they have bad attitudes. They're controlling, and they're just not interested in being props for a political party that uses black men when it's convenient and tosses them up the moment they think for themselves, leading their families and being with a black woman. And this ain't about Trump. This is about truth. You got Democrat cities falling apart through the roof. The schools failing, illegal immigration flooding the job market. And every time someone tries to do something about it, if they got a R next to the name, Republican next to their name, the left treats it like it's the devil himself showing up with handcuffs and a mega hat. But let's be logical. If Trump offers to help crack down on crime and your city is drowning in crime, why wouldn't you take the help? Because Orange Man bad? Because you're too prideful to admit you can't fix the mess in your own policies created? That's not leadership, that's narcissism. And it's killing our communities. So Stephen A. Smith is right. He is a deal maker. If you make him look good, he'll return the favor. Right? And when you look at this whole thing, even when Stephen A. Smith, who is a lifelong liberal himself, we all know which side he's on. He's Democrat or Democrat conservative, but he's not extreme left, but he's a Democrat. He voted for Kamala. And he says, hey, y'all doing too much. He suddenly becomes the villain. Nah. What's wrong with him criticizing Kamala Harris and say, hey, y'all doing too much, but still rule for his party? What they're really saying is you don't get to think for yourself, not if you're a black man, not unless your opinions match the script they wrote for you. And that's the real issue. And Tiffany Cross just proved that her whole meltdown wasn't even about policy. It was about power. She said Stephen A. Shouldn't even have a platform. Check it out.
It's from that half-witted idiot basking in the non-existent rays of his own ignorance. It is sad to me that he even gets an audience of black men. Why aren't black men right now saying, Stephen A. Smith, we banning him, we not listening to his podcast, we're not watching his show anymore? That's what black...
No, ban him for telling the truth. You don't want dialogue. You want dictatorship, because dictatorship is my way or the highway. Dialogue and respectful dialogue is we could agreeably disagree. You don't want equality. You want silence from men who don't worship you. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. Like I said, a lot of black men are frustrated, not because they hate black women, but because liberal black women have been weaponized against them. They've been told they don't need us. The government daddy. They can survive off of, food stamps and getting social services instead of keeping their family together stronger, where we all know that the child is more successful with a two-parent background in the household and seeing how they operate and pull things together, group economics, right? But black women are told that they're winning without the black man within the black families, that their power lies in replacing the black man, not building them. And a lot of times I've come across black women belittling black men, and they've been fed with talking points in regards of, oh, they big and bad all by themselves, I don't need no man. and that men are the problem and masculinity is toxic and submission is slavery and leadership is abuse, and that's not empowerment, that's like indoctrination, and it's breaking down the black family. So a real man wants to lead, he wants to protect. How many times have women have said, oh, I want a man who could protect, who could provide, right? And that's what it is, right? The traditional role that God and faith has assigned them. But the Democrat Party and the women who are basically married to the government and also what's sold to them from a political standpoint, like the Democratic Party, is allergic to that kind of structure. They want confusion. They want role reversals and everything upside down, because when there's no order, no power, uh, center to challenge theirs. When there's no order, there's no power center to challenge theirs. So yes, the black men have been leaving the Democratic Party in droves, not out of spite, but out of self-preservation, to preserve themselves and not get belittled or knocked down for doing the roles as a man has always done throughout history, providing and protecting and leading their family. And the irony is, a lot of these liberal black women aren't even leading with original thought. They're just you know, parroting the liberal script with a little more seasoning. So now when black men say this ain't working, suddenly they're the enemies. They're not the enemies. They're just tired of being footstools or doormats. So the Stephen A. Smith, despite being a liberal himself, got a little too honest, and now the same people who cheer for him when he blamed racism for everything are dragging him for pointing out their own foolishness. He criticized a black woman, so he must hate black women. He questioned Democratic strategy, so he must be MAGA. He said maybe there's a better way to do this, and that was enough to spark a full-on cultural panic. And that tells you everything you need to know. But let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. Hope you guys got some value from this video. Give this video a big thumbs up. Catch you in the next one. Love you guys. Peace.